All right, welcome to the live, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna do a live reaction to this woman. She makes numerous videos about mixed race people, and in my opinion, she's a fear monger to mixed race people, and I just want to like talk about it. So a lot of people are fear mongers towards us. Like she made another video saying that dark skinned people are not going to exist if mixed race people keeps trying to say that we're going to completely erase dark skinned people from, which is completely false. I just feel like a lot of the stuff that she says could be debunked really easily because mixed race people have been around forever since the beginning of time. So, and dark skinned people are still here. So that completely debunks that whole narrative of, oh, dark skinned people are going to be erased because mixed race people exist. So there's just a lot of, she continuously makes videos towards mixed race people over and over and over and over and over again. So I just want to start responding to them. So why not? So this one is about the Amber Rose situation. And the title caught me. I was like, mixed race heritage is weaponized against black people. So, I just want to let's watch it. Let's go ahead and play it.
She feels like she's never fit into any culture.
I don't fit in white spaces, but I don't fit in black spaces either.
I just found that to be really laughable. Amber, like your entire rise to fame was literally off of dating black men. Like, who black men chooses to center and pour in love somehow is also who we as black people pour in love as well. So to say that you've never fit in, it's manipulative.
And I'm gonna stop right there. Let me stop it right there. So the first point I really wanted to make is attention versus acceptance. Like those are two different things. Just because she got a lot of attention from the black community does not mean she's fully accepted. Because let's be real, Amber Rose is seen as like a thought and a hoe, and she tried to own that and have like the slut rock and have like reclaim it. And so but a lot of people didn't really like that about Amber Rose. Like she's kind of seen as the same as Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian got famous off of black people, but is she accepted by black people? No, but she gets a lot of attention from black people because of who she dates. So I don't feel like that's a very valid point at all. Getting a lot of attention and a lot of clout and a lot of fame from the black community does not mean the black community completely accepts you. Like I don't think it's like attention, like from being fetishized doesn't mean that, oh, I accept you as a human being. That means you're still fetishized and looked down on and just seen as a sexual object. You're not accepted as a human being. Like that's two totally different things. So yeah, okay, go ahead and play it.
Sometimes it don't do. I have a panel in Berlin next weekend, so I've been like preparing for that. Kanye West back in like 2008 or something like this, and she really was a fashion it girl. So Amber Rose, if you don't know, is of mixed race heritage, but she is presenting as a white woman, I think, to most people. So Amber Rose has also like said on many occasions that she does not identify as black, but there is still a big push to claim Amber Rose as black, which I feel like I've made a lot of videos about why we do that, and it's really off of desirability. I feel like if you are a very, very desirable woman, particularly, people want to claim you as black because it justifies.
That's true.
Their
Stop it right there. And that's 100% true. And it's completely hurts our community a lot because if I want to say, oh, this so and so is mixed race, but it is based off of desirability. I totally agree with that point. And it needs to stop. Like if somebody's just desirable, they want to claim you as black. But if they're not, they're not. I completely agree with her on that point. Really, it is based on desirability who people want to claim as black or not, and that hurts our community. The mixed race and the biracial community, it hurts us because race woman, if they want to claim their identity as biracial, people are going to argue with them up and down, and that's exhausting and tiring and gets old. So yeah, go ahead and play it. But I agree with that.
Their attraction to people who aren't black, but that's a conversation for another day. Before y'all start coming for me and saying that I am invalidating someone's experience, here is footage of Amber Rose literally saying she is not black. Also, Amber Rose has a white father and a mother who is half black and half white. So she has a mixed race mother and a white father. She is 75% white.
I checked the black box, but that's also because I was raised by a black father who was very pro-black and was like, yo,
see, I check
black,
other.
B.
I do not consider myself a black woman.
But also having to do the breakdown of someone's heritage is actually really annoying because race is how you are read. So if you are Amber,
she's 75% white. Like, of course she should check others. She has mixed race heritage. Like, that shouldn't be controversial. That shouldn't be like, oh well, she doesn't identify like but she's culturally more black. Like she was raised in a black community, raised more to be culturally black. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's a lot of white people raised in black culture. So it's crazy how, race and culture are very tied together, but at the same time they act like you can't be culturally something because you're not racially something. So I think that's crazy to me because, but yeah, go ahead and play.
Actually really annoying because race is how you are read. So if you are perceived as white, then you are white. If you are perceived as black, you are black. Obviously there's a lot of nuances within that, but race is literally how people are perceiving you. Like a black experience is an experience of being perceived as black. So recently on College Hill, which is a show off of BET, they have a reboot of it, and Amber Rose is entertainers on that show. There was a fight that was really going viral all over social media, showing Amber Rose putting her hands on Jocelyn. So Jocelyn's very funny, and I feel like she will say things and she'll just say it very bluntly. But but Jocelyn had made a comment saying essentially like F European standards of beauty, like F wanting to be white, and she was saying this while attending a historically black university. But Jocelyn was like F European standards of beauty, and then Amber Rose, I guess that triggers Amber Rose because Amber is like, I am 75% white, so like why are you?
She's completely being disingenuous here because this is something we experience as mixed race people. We get singled out for being another part of a certain race. So that's really what she was triggered by. I don't think nobody triggered by saying, "Oh, fuck the European beauty standards." Like, of course, like fuck all that. Like, we shouldn't uphold the European beauty standards if you're not European. So it's not even about that. It's about the fact that us as mixed race people, we get singled out a lot. Like, hey, oh, that white girl over there, or this. Like we experience that on both sides. Oh, that black girl over there, or that white girl over there. We get othered and singled out consistently. So I was really proud of Amber for standing up for herself. I was, because that's something we continuously experience over and over and over again. And it's so normalized. It's so accepted. And then if you speak up about anything, oh, you're sensitive. And it's just so annoying. It's the same fucking thing over and over again. So yo, hi Radical Latino, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hello. And hey Al, how you doing? Well, if a mixed race person think they're mixed, but some monoracial want to see them as monoracial, that isn't probably period. I totally agree with you. That's not our issue. Like, that's something that the black community is gonna have to work out on itself, because that we can't do nothing about it. All that we can do is claim our identity and keep it moving. Like, we can't sit here. I don't got energy to sit here and argue with people all day about who's black, who's not. Like, no, we got our own community that we have to build. I forgot her name, but I'll probably leave a link if you want. She makes numerous videos about biracial people, like continuously, maybe like 10 videos that she's directed towards mixed people. So, and she does a lot of fear mongering, talking about, oh, dark skinned people are not going to exist anymore. And she's like worried that they're not going to exist. And I don't know. I just do think she does a lot of fear mongering towards biracial people. So I just wanted to respond. Yeah, there we go. All right, you can go ahead and play it.
Why are you saying F white people? And she physically attacks Jocelyn.
Traditional Western beauty sucks. I hate to say it for the whitey whites.
Ooh, Jocelyn.
Oh, we ain't got no white
singled out.
Yeah, just Amber. We got a little white person in here, but she's
white right there. Like, she's being singled out, and that's something we experience all the time. So it's not about, oh, she got mad because she said fuck the beauty standards. It's the fact that we get singled out all the time, and they don't feel good at all. So. Yeah, why is it a problem when mixed people identify with what they want to when it isn't black? They got offended, like you hurt them personally. People take it too personal. People take things way too personal. I agree. Why is somebody's identity like, why do you take somebody else's identity personally? Like, I don't understand that. That's a good point. Like, this is a good point. Like, how you identify ain't got nothing to do with me. So why am I gonna sit here and make it about me when it don't got nothing to do with me? So all right, go ahead and play the clip.
I have the freedom of speech to say that black folks is a little bit cuter than the white people. Okay. I mean, if you don't like that, then you need to go and rewrite your constitution.
Can't let nobody bully me like that. I refuse. I don't let my family bully me like that.
There she go. Cry baby, cry baby, cry baby.
So I want to talk about this, but I also want to pull in the parallels of how this isn't exclusive to the TV show, but there's a lot of labor that often falls on black women, black non-men, to be teaching biracial people and like validating biracial people's experiences. After the show came out, a lot of people I saw online were having compassion for Amber Rose and saying, you know, she was pushed to the limits, which I also feel like, you know, who is giving compassion is very interesting, because she literally physically assaulted somebody. But of course,
we're gonna have compassion because we understand how she feels. I don't expect nobody else to have compassion because they're not gonna understand the shit that we go through, right? Let's see. Oh, I see the eyeshadow on her face. Oh. I like her makeup. It's cool. I mean, but what I'm saying is we're gonna have compassion because we're trying to build our own community. So people of another community, most of the time something happens, they're gonna have compassion because they understand what they're going through. So yeah, of course we're gonna have compassion because I totally relate and understand to what Amber Rose is going through as a mixed race person, whether it be 75%, 20, whatever, you know, it's the same shit. So but when it comes to the labor aspect, I'm gonna talk about that too, the whole labor aspect. So our heritage is being weaponized because black people have to labor so they can figure out their blackness and stuff like that. So I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But go ahead and play it.
because Amber Rose benefits from desirability, Amber Rose benefits from, you know, being white. People are going to have a lot of space for Amber Rose, and you know, she's something that she said something that she said that was really interesting to me was when she said that she feels like she's never fit into any culture, like she's never been embraced by black people, and she's also like never been embraced by white people.
I don't fit in white spaces, but I don't fit in black spaces either.
I just found that to be really laughable because Amber, like your entire like rise to fame was literally off of dating black men. Like there was so many jokes about you only dating.
And that's what I said earlier. There's a difference between acceptance and attention. Okay. Just because you get a lot of attention from a community does not mean you're totally feeling accepted in that community in your day-to-day, everyday life. Okay. So there's a total difference because what people see on the outside is not the same what you're going through on the inside. So yes, you don't feel totally accepted because what the black community looked at her like a thought and a slut and a hoe. Like that's she was a hoe and a pass around chick in the black community. That's how the black community seen her. So, you know, that's I don't think that's a fetishization. That's not acceptance. Just because you looked at a hoe and you looked at like somebody want to fuck you, I don't think that's acceptance. So go ahead and
black men, like your public history of who you date is only black people. Like I heard of you because I watch black media. I don't know if white people are checking for you like that. You've made your money in black spaces. You've made it clear that you're in black spaces. Like you were in black music videos. You were in black, you're on BET. That literally stands for.
But this is why we need our own spaces because people have an issue if a biracial person goes in black spaces. They're not going to feel totally accepted because that's just the reality of what being biracial is. But if they go into black spaces and get money and get all these accolades and get something, people are going to have an issue with it. But that's why we need our own fucking spaces so we don't have to face that type of backlash. Like, oh, you don't belong in these spaces because you're not fully black. You don't identify as black. So we can have our own spaces where we can just do our own thing, get our own money, have our own shit going on. Like, that's the solution. That y'all don't want us in your spaces, so we need to create our own spaces so that's not going to be an issue, right? That's not going to be an issue. Exactly. What's going on makes people always become the representative of the negative aspects of each race they have. They're like the spokesman for real. For real shit. They have to become like the spokesman for each race, and that's real shit. That's some real shit. Just like Amber Rose, she's seen as a thought and a hoe, and that's how she's seen. Like she's not seen as something that's just so amazing and good and respectable. Like she's seen as a hoe, and she was trying to, reclaim that. Like I respect Amber Rose as a person, as a human being, but that's how the black community seen her, as just a thought. So yeah. So yeah, like you said, it's like the negative aspects of each race, right? So definitely, dating is has predicted an individual choice. It has nothing to do with other ethnic community accepts or rejection of Amber Rose. So poor argument there. Exactly. These are very poor arguments. All of these arguments, when it comes to mixed race people, are very poor arguments, but nobody's sitting here trying to argue back to it and trying to say, hey, this is not right. Like trying to challenge the arguments. because this is why we got to start speaking up on things. Because a lot of I've seen her make continuous videos of mixed race people, and the arguments don't really hold up that well at all. It's just fear, false evidence appearing real. It's just out of fear. It's fear mongering towards mixed race people. So that's all I'm saying. Like weaponize, like the title of this, oh, you're weaponizing your mixed race heritage against black people. Like that's fear mongering. Like how are we weaponizing our mixed race heritage? Like that doesn't make no sense to me at all. Just because that shit don't make no sense to me at all. Go ahead and play the clip.
Black entertainment. I know it's not owned by black people. Maybe it is now, but at some point it wasn't. But you're literally on BET. And I want to talk about that because something I think is really interesting is like, I feel like a lot, like an overload of content is always around biracial people's identities of not feeling like they're fit in. Like there's been so much content around that to the point where people think the black experience is literally a biracial experience of not fitting in within black people. There are some people, there are.
What? That is not true. The black experience is based on the biracial experience of not fitting in. People know the difference. People are not stupid. Like people know the difference. Like people are so brainwashed to think, oh, society's gonna see you as black. Society's gonna see you as black, so you're black. No, in reality, people know the difference between unambiguous dark skinned black person and a biracial and a mixed person. Like people know. Like there's so much representation of mixed people in the media. Like we said, and they all talk about their mixed race heritage. How would they not know? Are people so stupid? Are we just like pretending not to know the difference? Like we know the difference, and we know there's a difference between a dark skinned person, dark skinned black woman or man's experience and a biracial person's experience. Like that's crazy to me that she would say that. Like no, that's crazy. People think that the biracial experience is. I'm just saying. Look, that's the issue though. That's why we need our own identity. So we can just say, hey, we're biracial. This is our experience, and then we speak for ourselves. And then black people, they can speak for their experience because they're not going to have that. They're not going to have those issues. Why would a fully black person have to deal with, oh, I don't fit in with the white side or the black side? Because they probably will because they live in a majority white country, but that's going to be totally different because they're not racially connected to those two things. So that's going to be a totally different experience from. So it just makes sense to differentiate from our identity and their identity. It just makes perfect sense. So let me see. It's wild, but when mixed people date black people, they black people is a point you say black stuff. It's like self-defense. It's in case where yes, definitely. Black people make it a point to say you black. It's like that's what I'm saying. The whole pick a side, it goes into our dating world. Like people were trying to claim Amber Rose as black because she mostly dated black men. If she dated mostly white men, that nobody would be sitting here trying to claim her as black. So like when she said there is desirability politics when it goes into it is like desirability is based desirability when it comes to like accolades, like the civil rights movements and stuff like that, like Malcolm X and Rosa Parks. They're mixed race people, but they have made achievements and moved the movement forward. So they're gonna want to be clear because there's a desirability there. It's not just when it comes to looks, it's when it comes to like accolades and accomplishments as well. So who's getting claimed? So yeah. All right, you can go ahead and play it. Go ahead and play it.
There are a lot of people who are black who can never be anything else but black, but those experiences will never be talked about because it will always be centered by a light or a white person in the black community screaming and crying about how they don't feel like they fit in. But what I wanted to say about Amber Rose particularly is like being desired by black men, like being someone who is romantically desired and sexually desired and like shown as like the trophy wife or shown as the prize is like the definition of like fitting in, because there are so many people within blackness who, once again, they have no other race they can turn to, will never have validation from black people, will never have validation, particularly from black men, because we live in a very patriarchal society. Who black men chooses to center and pour in love somehow is also who we as black people pour in love as well. So a black man literally put Amber Rose on, and then loads of black women have been supporting Amber Rose for a really long time.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about, Radical Latino. Hold on. Is my green screen probably messing up? I don't know. It's not a ghost. Okay, but like I was saying, okay. The also said this Maya Mama just noted an argument used against biracial black people that namely celebrities they make money off. Yeah, it's an assertion exactly. But okay, like she said, I hear this so much. This is why Black people need to support biracial people having their own community, so we don't have to be centered in their community. It's like, oh, we don't want, biracial people being centered in their experience. I wish you should go get therapy already. Yes, I agree. But this is why we need our own community. So we don't have to be centered. Black people can center themselves in their own community. We can center ourselves in our community. Boom, problem solved. That's all there is to it. Okay. We have our own identity. We have our own community. We have our own spaces. So we don't have to sit here and whine and cry to Black people talking about we don't fit in on both sides. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. Okay. That's not their issue. That's not their problems. Black people got their own issues and problems they got to deal with. And we got our own issues and problems we got to deal with. So there's that. Like I think that's a solution to all of this. But when we try to build our own communities and our own spaces, we get so much pushback from Black people. We don't benefit Black people, so they don't have to deal with stuff like this. They don't have to deal with, you know, our heritage is being weaponized against us and all that bullshit. So yeah, go ahead and play the rest of it.
So to say that you've never fit in, I feel like it's something that you say to it's manipulative. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's manipulative because it's like, whatever happened to therapy, right? Whatever happened to group chats? Whatever happened to texting your best friend? Or why don't you go to your mother or go to your father and ask them about these questions? It's what happens is like these people.
All right, go ahead and join my Discord. I got a Discord. We got a YouTube channel. We got all these spaces that we could go to and talk amongst ourselves about these issues. So I agree with her. Like, come talk to, other biracial people about your shit. Don't go into spaces that won't understand your issues and try to cry and whine about it. I agree with that. You know what I'm saying? But it's like we don't got no other choice. That's why we got to start building our own shit. I find it extremely interesting that Latinos face the same social pushback when they say that. It is interesting. I totally get it. Like the Dominicans, especially the Dominicans out there fighting for their life, for their identity, and I respect that because don't let anybody push any other ideologies on you that don't benefit you. So but like I was saying, but when it comes to biracial people, we can't really. Okay, I don't know about Amber Rose because she has a biracial mother, so I don't know what experience is like that. I got a Black mother and a white father, so how am I gonna go talk about my biracial experiences with them? They're not biracial. They don't understand. You know what I'm saying? That's why that's out the window. When it comes to therapy, there's what biracial therapists are there out there like that? Not really. I mean, there probably is some, but it's hard to find like somebody who's gonna tackle biracial issues. You know what I'm saying? So I think the best option for us as of right now is like the mental health industry is not really capable of handling that right now. But the best option for us is, yes, we need to find spaces like having online spaces where we can come together. So that's very important. Okay. That's super important for us. All right, go ahead and play.
Amber Rose's biracial mother and white father have some, seeming like they're having some kind of really strange race relations, right? Then you produce a child who has no ability, like doesn't have a racial analysis. She's
I agree with
confused.
that. We don't have a racial analysis. We don't we don't really we're not really racially aware. We're taught, because these interracial couples come together and they're like, oh, race don't matter. Race it doesn't matter because me and your mom are together, so race shouldn't matter. So we're not really racially aware of like our reality of like how it is. So it is hard. That's why we need biracial people to come together so we can, help form our racial identity. We don't have a racial identity right now. Okay, but we need one. We need one because we need that community. We need that shit. Just like the Latino community, they have an identity. Like a national identity, like Puerto Rico. They don't have to go by race. They go by their nationality and their culture. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we need to be able to do that too. We want to be able to have because America's based on race, unfortunately. I wish we could all just be like, oh, we all just American, but America has so many different cultures based on race. You know what I'm saying? So let me talk about. Here's what's going on. It's the usual resentment towards Black, white, biracial people, the monoracial people, in the AA community, specifically mixed people get all the attention, money, fame, respect, notoriety. Exactly. Also, stop watching and engaging with this type of comment. You're not going to change his one design. No, this is for us to just talk about it. I'm not looking to change nobody's mind here. Okay. I'm not even talking to her. I'm talking to us. Like, I'm talking amongst us. Like, this is why we need our own community. Because look at what these people are saying. They're saying, "Hey, we don't want you in our, we don't want you getting the bag from black people," and then turn around saying you're, you don't even identify. That happens continuously over and over again. This is why we need to start building your own shit, because she wouldn't have to go into black spaces if we had our own spaces and our own communities. That's the whole point of this. I'm not changing nobody's mind. I agree with you though. I agree with you though. This is just I didn't even at her. Like I don't even want to I don't even want her to watch this. Really. This is just for us to have a conversation, you know what I'm saying? So that's all this is about. But yeah, go ahead and play it.
She expects black women to literally teach her, to the point where if you're saying something about her, she's going to physically fight you because she's angry that you are not seeing her in this way. Like that rage is really giving, like, I've tried to manipulate you, it's not working, so I'm gonna physically try to put my hands on you. And there's been so many situations where there's a lot of biracial people and they expect black women to like literally bow down to them and teach them about their blackness and teach them about their black hair and do the labor, emotional labor of hearing them talk about how hard it is. Like, meanwhile, being actually black, like fully black, you are likely dealing with color. If you're dark skin, you're likely dealing with color.
Happy right there. See, this is how wrong people are about it. This is why we got to stop letting people speak on us and act like they are experts on our experiences, right? Look, Cham, yeah, as long as America keep cute. Yeah, exactly. But this is why we got to stop, because we don't have the black experience. So like she'll agree that we don't have the black experience. So how are we going to be taught the black experience? So that's her argument she's trying to make, that biracial people are weaponized because we have to go to black people and they have to do all the labor to teach us about the black experience, which is crazy to me, because look, we have a biracial experience, so why don't we have a biracial community so we could help each other navigate this biracial experience? Simple as that. So we don't have to put all the work on black people to teach us our blackness when we're only half black. Like we're two different races. Like that doesn't even compute to me. It does not compute. So that's simple as that. Like simple as that. But I'm just saying, like, she's so wrong about all these things that, you know what I'm saying? She's just wrong about. But go ahead.
Colorism, you're dealing with featureism, you're dealing with texturism, you're dealing with anti-fatness. These are all things within a black experience. You're dealing with transphobia, queerphobia, homophobia. Like, these are all these things within blackness that just weighs on, and it's heavy and heavy. But that's not who we center, right? We want to center people like Amber Rose's experiences. We want to center people who have the closest proximity to whiteness, because we are taught to have compassion for those who have proximity to whiteness. So that's why people feel so like a heart jerk when someone like Amber Rose feels
us. Look, white people created that, right? Because they created the beauty standards, right? But black people, they're gonna have to do the work of decolonizing their mind, right? So they don't have to sit here. That's crazy. Like, you would have more compassion with somebody who looks more closer to whiteness than somebody who looks just like you. Like, that's craziness. Like, that's crazy. And that's on you to fix that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't do nothing to fix that. Like, I'm against that, really. I don't think you should have more compassion for somebody just because they look closer to whiteness. Like, that's crazy. Okay. And anybody who think like that is crazy. And you shouldn't base compassion based off skin color. Okay. Whoever's doing that is weird and crazy. Okay. But I'm just saying that's on the black community. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what can we do? We're just existing. Like, we're just born into this shit. Like, we got our own shit, we got our own problems. But you know, I do think that colorism does affect the black community and biracial community negatively. It does. And I tried to say that. She's saying nothing new. We've heard all this stuff a million times. Water is wet. All right, go ahead and push it.
disconnected because we are trained to like
I've never heard that before. Wait, go ahead. I've never heard that. Oh, our mixed race heritage is weaponized against. I never heard that before. Like, that's crazy. But she's saying the same things, but I don't really hear about where. That's what I'm saying. Like, mixed race heritage is weaponized against black people. Like, that's new. Like, I've never heard. That's crazy. But you know, that's crazy to me. But go ahead.
like, oh my God, the blonde hair and the blue eyes. We can't have her be sad. Let's say I have a discussion about colorism or texturism, right? And someone says something disrespectful. If I physically lash out and I fight you, do I think that people will say, hey, you know, it's really hard out here for dark skin? No, they will not. They will see me as the villain. Every time they will say, why did you lose physical control? You're so aggressive, you're so masculine, you're so angry. Like these are words that when you are actually black, you carry on your head all the time. You are very aware of the fact that people are always masculinizing you and seeing you as very angry. And this is how you go through the world. But people who don't live as black people don't have that same burden of knowing that they have these stereotypes always lingering over their head. Amber Rose is read as a white woman, so she can literally be aggressive, and it's just a quirky thing because her identity was, questioned or whatever, or like was made to feel like weird, so she can do that.
Being racist against a mixed person and identifying me.
So my question is, whose role is it to teach biracial people about their blackness, and why is it?
I mean, you shouldn't be racist. I'm happy. Look, I'm really happy that Amber Rose has visibility as much as she has. She's speaking out against racism that happens to mixed race people and people trying to force an identity on somebody. Like, come on now. Like, obviously Amber Rose, she identifies as mixed. Like, people are trying to say, oh, you're white, you're white, you're white. And then, like, it don't make sense. Like, we got to speak up against that. I'm grateful and happy that she's using her platform to speak up on that. So that's new to me. I mean, I don't really see that much celebrities doing that too often. So that's new to me. So yeah. Okay, let me read some of your comments. Hold on. Some people are pro thing and pro this and super woke but sound super dumb and uneducated. That's all in TikTok, man. Everybody's super liberal, super woke. They got all the fragility and the fertility and the light skin tears and the all of that. Like, they know everything about all of that. But it's like, where is it getting us anywhere? Really. Hey, MSL people should date. Biracial women want a woman bow down to them. Another note of nonsense. I swear. And we don't have to do that shit. Like, we don't have to bow down to no fucking body, really. We don't have to fucking bow down to anybody. Because look, I'm on TikTok, and it's like I'm trying to create biracial spaces, but I just feel like, I always let people in the space and they just want to argue with me because I did a live talking about how the negative effects of colorism on biracial people, like that was the title of it. And people want to jump down my throat, like, oh, you don't want to be affected by biracial. But the whole point was alive so we can be allies in the fight against colorism. But it's like they're too busy making me the enemy and making me the villain, and that I got light skin fragility and I got light skin tears and all that bullshit. So but I was actually trying to work together, but it's like they don't want that. So I'm like, you know what? That's cool. Like we're gonna do our own thing over here. I ain't gonna worry about it. Y'all saying I'm not affected by colorism, so I ain't gonna worry about it. Fuck it. I'll just worry about shit that do affect me. So I was trying to be an ally, but you can't be an ally with somebody who's trying to make you an enemy, So that's all. But you go ahead and finish this. This is so long. Oh my God, how much longer?
Is it never black men? Why can black men like fetishize and desire mixed race and white people, and it can fit some like weird agenda of like wanting to claim them as black because it like doesn't mean that you have to question your like desires and why you are attracted to somebody with blonde hair, blue eyes. Like the fact that like I remember when Kanye was dating Amber and everyone was like, oh she's from Cape Verde. That's what they all look like in Cape Verde. There's dark skinned people in Cape Verde. I don't know. First off, that's like a erasure of it's dark skin erasure. Second off, there are a lot of people on the continent who literally look like Amber Rose or Amber Rose's mother and would never claim black. They would never. A lot of, like, on the continent, a lot of people who are mixed race would never claim black. They're literally claiming mixed race. Some people even say they're white. So, like, saying that, like, it's because you don't understand how things exist in Africa.
What's the issue with people claiming mixed race? Like, you know what? I don't even care no more. I think tea and crumpets. I think that's, who is that? What's his name? I forgot his name. Anyways, but I think you're right. Like we do gotta stop engaging in this type of content because it's gonna be the same narrative. But at the same time, how are we gonna push back on this? Because people are believing this stuff. Like mixed race people are watching this stuff and believing it, and they're internalizing it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're internalizing. Yeah, my heritage is a weapon against me being half white. That means it's okay that I could sit here and be talked down on and treat like shit because I'm half of the enemy. And I'm just saying, like, mixed race people internalize this shit. So we need somebody speaking about it, somebody giving it like a little bit of pushback or something, because it's a lot of bullshit. I don't know. I'm just tired of letting the bullshit slide because it's just I know a lot of mixed race people are brainwashed by this shit. Like I go on TikTok, a lot of mixed race people are brainwashed by this shit, indoctrinated to think a certain way that does not benefit them at all. So they're brainwashed to deny their heritage And to think that, oh, if you claim being mixed, that means you hate black people. Like, that's craziness. It's crazy. So somebody got to speak on it, something. So go ahead and play it.
Or like blackness comes in many shades. So and you know, literally having this expectation on black non-men to literally teach mixed race people about their identity, some mixed race people about their identity, is a form of misogynoir, because you're expecting, you know, non-men to do the labor. In the identity of like race, like the role of black people is often to be laborers, right? It's often to be the people who are like doing the work. So you're like actually expecting black people to do more work than any other group of people. Oh yeah, someone on TikTok said that it's usually mixed race women who will like claim blackness and then say that black people don't accept them, and will be like the most like kind of wishy-washy of like racial politics. And I just want to say, like,
people got such an issue with saying, oh, black people, anything like it's like, well, you don't got no smoke for the other side. It's like, it's what we always say is both sides, but nobody want to fucking accept that. But like I said, trying to talk about our mixed race experience to monoracial people, whether it be monoracial black or monoracial white, is like trying to talk to white people about racism, because they're not going to experience what you're going to experience. So they're going to deny it because they don't see it, because they don't have the same experiences as you. So that's why it is exhausting and draining trying to explain and over explain to monoracial people about our experiences. Like it's not going to get nowhere, because they don't experience the same thing. So they're going to deny it. Okay. They're going to deny all of it. Like, because they just don't see it. This is the same with white people and racism. They don't see it because they don't experience it. So they can deny it. So that's how it is with them. So yeah, let me see. On the continent, what self-affirmation outside do you find women that look like Amber Rose? Exactly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this. Then I'm gonna let people up, and we can talk about, because I think that Tea and Crumpets got me thinking about how do we deal with this type of content, like this content that is directed towards us. Like, should we just keep ignoring it over and over again, or what are we gonna do? Like, because I think that we should be working together to like fight against these narratives and ideologies against us, like the one drop rule, and like, you know, people thinking it's controversial to claim you're biracial. Like, there's a lot of like stuff we need to push back on and make sure that, hey, there's a other side to the story that people are not hearing because we're not speaking up on it as much as we should. Or, you know, plenty of mixed race people in Africa think they're the same as black people. They like to say I'm light skinned and fully African. Oh shit, really? I didn't know that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the stream out, and we'll talk about this because I'm trying to finish this real quick. But it's basically the gist. You'll get the gist, right? The whole point is saying, oh, you know, black people are expected to labor more, and you know they have their biracial kids, and you know they're expected to labor so they could understand the blackness. That's why I'm like, we need to just, I made a video about that, about how biracial, if you have a biracial child, you need to go to biracial people. You don't go to black people. So go to biracial people so we can understand and have a biracial experience, right? So it's just as simple as that. But yeah, if anybody would come up and we could talk about like how do we deal with this type of shit, because it's like constant. Like I go on any social media platform I go to. I go on TikTok, I go on YouTube. Those are like the main two ones I go to. It's always talking about biracial people are this, biracial people are this, mixed people are this, mixed people are this. Like it's constant stream of just like all this bullshit about mixed people, you know? So because there's barely any of us trying to like speak up on it. So if anybody want to come up, let me know. But I'll probably end the stream soon. So if nobody want to come up here.
I agree with that. Actually, I feel like that is on misogyny, that you're thinking that the women are the only ones who are having issues within their racial identity. I think that biracial men also have these things, but it probably looks a little bit different. I think Amber Rose is no different than Logic. And we've heard what he does with his discomfort, his racial discomfort. We've seen that.
Oh yeah, I'm white. And my blood is the slave and the master.
Michael's biggest deals of the summer are here. This store-wide sale only happens 3 times a year.
Monoracially black people have to like exist in the world carrying usually multiple identities. If you are black and queer, if you are black and fat, if you're black and you're dark skin, if you're black and you're dark skin and you don't benefit from featureism, like there's so much nuances within our own identities, yet when we talk about these nuances, we are diminished. We are told to shut up. We are told we are aggressive. We're told we're angry. We're told that it's boring. I've been making content about colorism for like 6 years now, and I have relentlessly experienced people trying to silence me and tell me to shut up, to tell me that I am divisive. I have been attacked for saying this, and ultimately, what I'm speaking to is literally my own lived
Right, you can go ahead and
experiences.
stop it.
So
You
why?
get the gist of it. But anyways, hey, what's up, Al? So Al, what I'm sitting here thinking is, I feel like people, you know how people say racism didn't go away, it evolves. You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Hmm.
people always just try to find an evolve, like the anti-mixed race racism is always evolving. There's always new ways people are coming up to be hateful towards mixed race people and try to make them seem like, you know what I'm saying? Like if it just feel like that. It just feel like it's always continuously evolving. So you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. I tend to look at it in terms of basic. I mean, it's basically like in this video with this lady. It's what I call
Yeah,
the golden hits. The golden hit.
yeah.
You hear these talking anti-biracial talking points all
Mm-hmm.
the time,
All the time.
elaborated by different people.
Yes, like
For
continuous.
example, yes. So, for example, when she talks about biracial women want black women to bow down to them and then teach them and all of these things, right? Right
Yeah.
away, that's an anti-biracial talking point
Mm-hmm.
because basically what it's basically is, that's one aspect, right?
Right.
Then of course it's this idea of claiming blackness. You hear this,
Mm-hmm.
claiming blackness, right? So can someone explain to me how you can claim? How does that work?
Because
Claim.
you made a good point about Rachel Dolezal or whatever her name is. You made a good point
Yes,
that she
Rachel
claimed
Dolezal.
her blackness even though she was just masquerading as something she's not, right? So
Right. She
right.
literally claimed being black, even though she's not. So how is it that you're either of African ancestry,
Or you're
and
not.
I know some people
Period.
have a hard, yeah,
Exactly.
right.
I agree
And
with
some
that.
people have a hard time with the use of that term African. They want to be everything but. That's a whole other
Yes,
discussion.
they do. Exactly. I like people reject the term like African American, but I know
Oh
like
yeah.
people like he say like Afro Marone or you know what I'm saying. There's all these
No,
new
no.
terms.
I literally have been on a panel when I talked to someone. They said, "Don't use the term. Could you please use another term?" They didn't want the term African American used.
I don't
I said,
understand
"Okay,
that. I
Black
think that's a good term.
American." I was like, "Wow,
That's why I
that's
like the
how."
term Euro
Yeah,
Afric. How do you feel about the term Euro Afric? Because it should be
I
kept the
do
same.
like
Why
that.
don't we say European
I like
American?
that term.
Yeah, I like that term because
Euro
it's
effort.
like half of my DNA comes from Europe and the other half comes from Africa. So Euro Afric, it just makes sense to me. And then I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna keep the same energy for white people. I'm gonna call them European Americans because that's
No,
what
that's
they
what I've
are.
used. I've used that term. Yeah,
That's
I've
what the
used that term
are.
before.
So, yeah,
I like that term myself. I like European American.
yeah, I like Euro Afric. I think that
Yeah,
exactly what that is.
I think it's a
No,
good
like
because it's accurate. It's accurate. But yeah, you hear the same talking points. What I'm hearing in this video, it's the
mhm.
same basic anti-biracial, um, attack points that are used. Because the whole point is to attack biracial people and to
Yes,
make them the weaker part. Because
yes,
when you have a community that's oppressed, and African American communities have been oppressed historically,
hmm
they have to find someone to take their anger and their historical grievance and you know out of, and that's normally been to a certain extent on biracial people.
exactly, exactly,
That happens.
exactly. It's like we
Yeah.
can only really talk about this amongst ourselves because if we try to talk about this like what he said, like if you try to change people's mind or try to make people see what's going on with us and they don't really care, it's like
Mhm.
it's pointless. Like that's why we need a community because or we're always going to
Mhm.
be gaslit and told no, that's not what's happening. No, 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 right? So it's like that's why I'm just like, I'm trying to get more people on board. I just want to see more spaces popping up. Like, like we should have all different
Right,
types of spaces that, you find people
right.
like not every biracial people is going to get along. We all know that. We've all seen that here in
Well,
Houston.
that's obvious.
Yeah,
It's obvious.
but I
But
think
they
that
gotta want to. But with some
everyone
of these
are,
biracial people, they've got to learn how to have. They left got to learn how to behave within a biracial community, within a mixed race community.
that's why
And
I did
some
the whole
biracial
rally.
people don't
That's why
want
I
to
did
do
the
that
rally thing last night because
because
it's
some
like,
of them don't simply because some of them do not like fundamentally, although they won't say it, they don't like being biracial. They don't like being mixed race. Even though they'll say, I'm biracial, I'm mixed race, they don't like it because of the things they say about biracial people and also
yeah,
the fact that they privilege everyone else's opinions and not
yeah,
simply biracial people's.
they don't
In
really
a
value.
biracial space, you can't have that. But
Yeah, you should value our own opinions first and foremost. Yeah, I feel like that's
mm,
internalized though. That's internalized. That's why we got to fight back against this type of stuff because we internalize that hey, we should shrink ourselves. We shouldn't center ourselves. We should be small because of colorism and because of all these things. And it's like that's why we got to fight back against it. That's why I know having these spaces should the
I,
whole point of
I
it should
think
be
I think
about
that's a good point.
yeah, I think
I
the
think
whole
that's a
point
good point you're making because I see
yeah,
that with some biracial people. That
yeah.
when I was on biracial, when I've been on biracial social media groups, I've
Mm-hmm.
dealt with what I call the wannabes and the militants, and
Mm-hmm.
you really do see that to an extent. I've kind of clashed with these individuals, so I understand. I see this up front. I've seen it where you have people some of the biggest enemies that we have in our biracial spaces are biracial and multiracial people because
Mm-hmm.
they don't like being around other biracial people. They
Yep.
want the
Facts.
acceptance and approval of monoracial people because they
Facts.
see themselves as monoracial.
Yeah, and exactly. So that should be the whole point of these space. Like my space, I want it to make sure we're building up each other's confidence in our biracial identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we don't have any, when you don't have any confidence, like you're raised right to only have confidence in your black identity. But nobody tells you like, hey, being biracial is good. You should be proud of it. You should be like nobody's telling nobody that growing up, really. Because it's still considered like a taboo thing. It's still considered like weird to be like biracial, right? But I'm just saying, like, we need to be building each other's up in our confidence when it comes to our identity, so we can speak out about these things because as long as we're identifying as multiracial, they're like, oh, that's not about me. Like, you know what I'm saying? When people make these type of videos, it's gonna be like, no, oh, that's not me. And they're gonna keep it moving, but it's like they don't realize how it's affecting other biracial people because they don't feel connected to other biracial people. They don't really care. So
Right, that's true. And for me, it's weird to be anything but biracial. So I'm the opposite, which is uh, maybe my experience is different from a lot of people's, but it's weird. I'm nothing but, I'm mixed race and I've always been that. It's very basic. And it's like, I don't see myself as anything but. So there's no shame or, uh, disillusionment or dislike. Quite the opposite. It's just nonchalant acceptance. I'm a mixed
exactly,
race person and that's that, you know.
exactly. And that's crazy, coming from your generation too, because usually everybody in the older generations they were saying, I didn't have no choice, but it depends on location too,
Right.
because it'd probably be if you were in the South,
That's
like raised
true.
in the South, it'd be
That's
like a
true.
experience. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I've had people tell me that. Whoa, what happened?
Oh, sorry, that's
I've had people, yeah. I've had people tell me that. I've had people tell me, well, when I was growing up, I couldn't be biracial. I couldn't be mixed race.
Mm-hmm.
And in some circumstances, you know, I mean, you have to understand for some people, they didn't feel that was an option. And for some people in extreme circumstances, that really wasn't an option that they felt um, they could take because they would be either physically impacted, beat up, or harassed, or bullied or harassed or beat up anyway, or their lives would be negatively impacted if they chose to be mixed race. So
Right.
it's extreme. Those may be extreme circumstances, but they exist for some people. And so that's why I try to have a certain limited amount of understanding for people who aren't having a biracial identity like I do. I go, okay, I can see that that wasn't my experience, but that's that person's experience. And so, yeah, I'm in a different set of shoes than that person. Do I approve of you know, their choices in terms of identity? No, but it's not up to me to approve it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the way I look
So
at it.
I got a question for y'all. So here's what I'm thinking in my head right now. So you know how like monoracial, especially black people, how they say they over center us and they don't center themselves. We do the same shit. Okay, we have like this weird parasitic like relationship with the black community where we over center, monoracial black people. We don't center ourselves at all. So it's like that's what I'm trying to get people to realize we should do. Like we should not center another community, another group. We got to center ourselves, just like black people should not center light skinned people over themselves. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, my question is to both of you guys, how are we going to learn how to like center ourselves and undo brainwashing that we shouldn't center ourselves because of colorism, because of all this bullshit, ideologies and stuff that we internalize? So like, how do we get rid of all that so we can unapologetically center ourselves and not give a fuck and just focus on our own issues and not really worry about what other people are saying about us or, all the other shit. So what y'all think about that?
You already said it. What's up, Magic? Magic.
What's
What
up?
up? You already know we just gotta ignore them people. Gotta ignore them.
We
That's
gotta
it.
ignore them.
Center ourselves, talk about us, ignore them like we doing right now. Though. But hey, I just got here. I don't know what y'all talking about, but I like somebody said.
I
We
was
got.
doing a reaction to this thing, right? And I was saying like, but somebody said something that kind of sparked my thought. So saying that, oh, they say the same thing over and over. Water is wet. You know what I'm saying? So it is the same old bullshit that's always being said about us. But I was saying how like, how do we like? When do we speak up about things? Because you know for a fact, you've seen on TikTok how so many people are brainwashed by this shit. Like they're really indoctrinated into believing a certain way. Like they shouldn't be proud to be biracial. Like it's like they shouldn't center themselves. They shouldn't do. You've seen that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when do we
Us
speak up
telling
about
them
it?
they shouldn't be proud or centering themselves. It'd be the same thing.
It'd be the same thing, right?
Hell
So
yeah.
it's like, when do we speak up versus when do we like just like, keep ignoring it? I think most of the time we should ignore it, but it's like all this shit is easily debunked. You know what I'm saying? Because look, this lady right here, she's basically saying, "Oh, mixed race identity is weaponized because we have to do all the labor and so they could understand their blackness." Like, but that is so easily debunked. Like, come on, no, like that's easily if
But
we
that's why we're making our own space because we don't need to understand blackness no more. We need to start understanding our
exactly,
natural existence.
exactly, and that's the whole point. And it's
Like
like really
we're trying to understand ourselves now. Like
real.
you can't teach people to be black. Like you're either black or you're not. They need to stop trying to train us to be like how to be black. It's weird.
Exactly. Or try to, yeah, because okay, on the other stream, okay, the whole conversation of black moms versus white moms, and you guys were trying to explain like you guys are dividing our community. Like this whole war between, yeah, okay, of course, if you're raised by a black mother, you're probably gonna be more culturally grounded in black. But okay, but fuck all that. Like, how does that affect biracial community? You know what I'm saying? You guys are still worried about how does that affect your community when they're behaving within the black community? But it's like, how do we take that? How does that affect our community? Like, they're not really thinking about like, because they're not thinking that we have a community. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, people aren't really thinking about it like that. They're only thinking about their own shit. So it's like that's how we gotta think. I guess we gotta think about our own shit and just
I'm
not
gonna
worry
be
about.
honest, there's different parts of the black dysphoria in America. There's different they're not even on the same page no more like they used to be
They're
because
not.
I just left Angry Biracial panel and they were pretty much in agreement with us. And then when you go to TikTok, they're in a
They're not.
disagreement. So it's
Exactly.
like it's different parts. Like now I don't even know like who I'm talking to anymore because
Hmm.
everybody's not even on the same page anymore and it's weird. And
Exactly.
but like somebody said it in the comments, like this is what it all really comes down to. You probably already went over this. Um, the Latino, he said, I find it extremely interesting that Latinos face the same social pushback the same way mixed biracial light skinned people face. and that's true. Like America is black and white. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. They're not focused on anything other
Nothing.
than black or white. That's the only culture here. The only thing you see in
Not
the
even Asian.
media.
Nothing.
Not
They don't
not
even.
even Asian. Like
They don't even
nobody
represent
else
really
matters.
good.
It's just them two. Like they're the only two existing people in America, and that's weird. So like for them to say that it's being weaponized, I think that's just not gaslighting, but it's just like them trying to keep that black and white structure.
Exactly. No, I do think that people say, because I brought that up. I was like, okay, if the whole racial construct of black and whiteness, where whiteness is on top and race and blackness at the bottom, I'm like, well, how do we get rid of that whole structure? And they're like, no, white people are too powerful, and we can't. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, damn, it's like if something is really hurting you, wouldn't you want to put everything into like deconstructing it or dismantling it? But it's like I feel like people are complacent in this whole fucking structure of this whole racial binary. So people are complacent in it. People are comfortable in it. Like they are. Like that's the truth.
Because they established it.
We're
They're
not comfortable
comfortable.
in it.
They established that works something for them. It's like if we was to establish a biracial community and then somebody comes along and goes, well, I think that like people within our community go, well, I think that we should start doing things this way, and we've been so comfortable with what we've established,
Comfortable.
we're not gonna
Yeah.
want to change it. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be fighting
Exactly.
back to not change things. So
Because they're comfortable with it because they have an established identity. Like that lady was saying, oh, I'm already established. They're already established. So
yeah,
it's like
they're comfortable. They're good. You know,
they're
they're not.
good. Like they already have an established
America's
identity.
black and white. What?
Us, we don't have that comfortability. We're not comfortable with this shit
And
at
then
all.
you're talking to people about something that doesn't benefit them. It's like if me coming to you talking about my rent and my bills, you're gonna be like, dude, you don't want to hear that shit. So me coming to people that have an established race that, oh, I want to do this mixed thing, and like that has nothing to do. You're telling them something that doesn't benefit them, something they're not. It doesn't. So it's like you're not having a conversation with the right people.
But they see it as like another race that they're
Well,
going to compete with too. You know what I'm saying? That's why there's
right.
a lot of pushback
So
on it. Hmm.
before getting into the, like the question that you asked, let me just look at the fallacy, the problem with what this lady, what Mayoma, I guess her name is, what her, I don't know if rant is the word, her critique is. The problem is, and this is the problem when it comes to biracial people, is that biracial people are always blamed for a situation that has nothing to do with them. In other words, they're made to feel culpable and they're made to feel responsible for being seen as part of a monoracial community, which they did not ask to be made part of. This is part of history. It's history that forced what occurred after 1900 with Plessy v. Ferguson, the 1924 Racial Integrity Act, elimination of mulatto from the census, and all of these things. Biracial people had their status, tenuous as it was, in American society ripped from them, taken from them.
Yes.
So now they were forced to be part of a community that they were not normally a part of. And so they had to find ways to survive. And so again, what happens is that in 2023, as opposed to 1923, to take it 100 years, the biracial person is seen as an interloper, an outsider, infiltrator by these types of individuals, right? Now, again, the problem is biracial people didn't create those circumstances. They didn't create the conditions. They didn't lobby to become part of a African American community in the case of mulatto or black, white, biracial. They didn't lobby to become part of black communities. They were forced to basically become part of it
But
because of the law.
people act like we gotta destroy white supremacy in order for us to have an identity. Like, what do y'all think about that? Like, we have to fucking take on white supremacy and take that down in order for us to even have a chance at having our own racial category that we choose. Because if
Well,
not,
there
then
was white.
white people
Well,
will always be in
in the
control.
history,
That then we'll
in the
go
history previous,
fight shit.
when biracial people had their own communities and their own organizations, white supremacy was around prior to Plessy v. Ferguson, 1924 Integrity Act. In
Right.
fact, it was probably more explicit and stronger in America than you could argue that it is now.
Right, so we
So
don't have to
if
fight
you
white supremacy in order to have identity because
right,
we already
it
had one
doesn't.
when it
It
was
wouldn't
there.
make sense.
It wouldn't make
Right.
sense.
It
But
wouldn't
that's
make
like
sense to
the
fight it
That's
and
what
try
Al
to
said.
eliminate it.
You know,
Right.
you're so this
It
is
doesn't make any. Historically, it doesn't make any sense because biracial people created their own communities and their own organizations
exactly.
within white supremacy. This country. So
So
you're going
basically,
to try to eliminate it to go back to what happened? No, it's not necessary.
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. So that's not true. Basically, what you're saying, like, it's not true that we have to fight white supremacy in order to have identity because, like you said,
Nope.
we already did that when it was there before. So
Exactly.
So
Great
that's a
point.
dumb argument. Like, yeah,
I
that's
think
why I
And
said you
much
can't listen to
harder.
people.
And
You can't
much,
listen
much
to
harder.
people. They're just telling you whatever, like anything at this point. But who is this lady in the video though? Like, is she from Africa? Because she look like she's African.
I think she's from Atlanta. I
Oh,
don't
she
think
from
she's African.
America?
Yeah, she's from
That's
America.
crazy.
That's
Oh,
the lady. Remember, I sent you the video.
yeah, I
That
know, but I didn't know where she was from.
I think she's from Atlanta.
I didn't know she was from America. Or...
She's from. I don't know. I think she's. I'm not sure if she's hate. I'm not honestly sure. I don't know for sure. But all I know is that we really gotta just, like you're saying, that's good because I was feeling discouraged because of people saying, "Oh, you got to take on white supremacy and in order for us to have a cat." But yeah, I'm happy you said that. Like,
Why you be listening to people?
Right,
because,
it's history.
remember the TikTok. This is
Like,
all coming
again,
from TikToks I was doing. I was letting the wrong people. I'm not letting people on.
Those people on TikTok don't know the history. This is one of the reasons I cite history for biracial people, black biracial people, mulatto people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the history. You have to know the history because the history will inform and help undergird and support what biracial people do in 2023.
We kept bringing that up.
You
Like,
have to understand where you come from.
A category, and motherfuckers was like, "Oh, that's just a slur." Like, people think that's just a slur. They don't understand that was like a racial category at one point. Like, they think it was just a slur.
Well, I'm not a fan of the word, but it was also a category for mixed race people on the symptom.
That's what we need. We need biracial history curriculum in schools.
Yes, we do.
Right. Precisely what I have. I have a live stream on my channel. Even though my channel's now a revamped sci-fi channel, I still have a live stream I did some time ago about the need for biracial history month or biracial history.
Anybody listening, that'd be a dope, like, business idea.
Ooh, like they need to teach it in public American schools.
No,
Because
they're
it's
not
not
going to
right
teach
for them to just
I don't
erase
think they're going to teach it
biracial
in schools.
history.
I think we gotta really educate ourselves. Like somebody could build like a little online course, and then we could pay for it, and that'd be a good way, like a little business idea.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'd be fine with it being in the schools, but realistically, it's something that biracial people themselves through YouTube, through
we need like
what
a
is
course
that,
though.
Vimeo, and
need a
through
course,
other
we need
kinds of
oral,
platforms,
we need
have to be
all
able
that.
to do,
School.
and also through speeches.
Would you ever do that out? Like, okay, do you know about Udemy? Udemy, where you
What
like
was that?
record. Did you know about Udemy, like where you record classes and stuff like that? Like, you make your own like little classes, and then people pay for them and stuff like that. It's like I used to do a bunch of like online classes through that.
Oh,
Yeah, so anybody could
I
like make
see.
a class, right? So we could take this in our own hands. What
Mhm.
I'm saying, like if you're like really
Yeah,
educated on history and stuff like that, you could just share what you know, and then that could be a good
right.
way to support you. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
have to say, quite honestly, I hate to say this. I don't know if there are any historians who look specifically at biracial people.
I'm
I
talking about
don't know.
you,
It would be
Al.
interesting.
You're a writer, Al. Like you are a writer. Like you
Yeah.
could write a
Well,
little.
I'm a writer, but right, but I'm not a historian. I'm not an academic. So
But you
I
could
mean, I
just share
could
what
talk
you know.
about it.
We need a real like historian to like make like a class. We do, yeah.
Right. That's what I meant. I don't know about any. I'd be interested if anybody knows. Are there actual historians that actually? Because there are historians that look at all kinds of history, right? Of all kinds of
I
people,
know
all kinds of.
they're not biracial, but they're white. They're white. Well, they're like white from like a
Okay.
different country. They're a historian and they study
Hmm.
like biracial history in America.
Oh, really?
They told
I'd
me
be
a lot of
interested in
stuff that
finding
I
out
didn't know
about them.
about. They told me a lot of like
Right.
stuff,
I'd be
and
interested
I
in
actually
finding out.
looked it up, and they
Tell
were
him
actually
if he
right.
makes a course, I'll pay for it. Like I want my kids to know. Like I want to like I want like a little
Yeah,
online
I'd like to
course
know who that is. I'd
that
like
we
to
can
know who
like
that is.
try. You know?
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think
They
that'd be really
pointed me
good.
to like there was like mixed people that like the three. I never knew this. That this historian actually told me that there was a the guy he was mulatto and he identified as mulatto, and I
Oh
never knew
yeah,
that.
that's well, yeah, Alex said Dumas. Yeah, well, actually, technically, his father was biracial. His father was an officer. I think his name is his father's name is Alexandre Dumas. And so I guess let's see, what would he be? I don't know
I
what
read
he would
something
be
he
classified.
identified it. He classified himself as mulatto.
Oh, he did. Okay. Oh, so he kept it simple. All right. Well, it's possible. I guess his dad married a French woman, I think. So I'm trying to remember the classifications. I can't remember
So he's saying his dad
the
mulatto,
script and
white.
Akaroon. I don't know. Yeah, you have some individuals of some degree of mixed race ancestry. You have Dumas, who wrote, let me see, The Three Musketeers, right? You have Alexander Pushkin. Now, he wasn't biracial, but I think his grandfather was African or something like that. So he was of mixed, obviously mixed race.
What I
And
want to know is,
Pushkin is one of the major literary figures in Russia. He's like a poet. He's one of the major literary figures in Russia.
Who you talking about? Oh, sorry, I went to go get some food. My
you know what's
bad.
crazy is that
So
historians they have access to books and documents and history that are not like in the library, so they get knowledge that nobody else can have,
Hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
that's kind
yeah, it depends on what art, looking through archives, right? Like I've gone through state archives. I've looked up some stuff in the state archives, but it's been quite a long time out of curiosity.
But you know what I'm
But
saying?
yeah, go ahead.
There's a library for
Go ahead.
like people who have like major in history. There's a library that only they have access to. Like you have to have a degree to even have access to those books.
Well, I know there's the National Archives in Washington. And yeah, I think you have to be like a reputable scholar or writer or something like that to deal with, to get access to um, the materials in the National Archives. And I think states have their own archives, obviously.
I mean, it makes sense. It's fair because
Yeah,
if you study that field and you want to make money, obviously that that's basically like your like if you go to school and you study a doctor, like to become a doctor, they give you your tools, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but like what I'm
right.
saying is we all really gotta play a part. Like we need some historians, some teachers, like so that's I think that's one of the most important aspects of it because me and Jay were talking about it. We don't know this history, so we're gonna keep repeating the same thing because we don't understand what was done in the past and the mistakes they made in the past and what mistakes that we can
Right.
avoid. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah, that's
that's
why I
like
say that history is important.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
important to know how we lost our communities, how we lost our
we
identity.
lost it
You don't really
exactly.
be saying.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. Very important. I'm hoping that maybe there's a biracial or multiracial person who's a historian or a scholar that may in some couple years or soon, come out with a book about biracial people in this country. I know there was I was like Daniel Brooks' book, The Accident of Color, which I read. That dealt with Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans, Louisiana, and I read that book. Um, So yeah, I'm really kind of hoping for, at least I hope that that will be something that happens, that there will be more histories and more more books about mixed race people.
And
Yeah,
what,
we got to
what,
create the
And
demand for
yeah,
it because people aren't going to do anything. Like I try to promote, Brittany. She's a biracial business owner, but it's like we got to create the demand because if these people aren't making money or if they're not like we got to make sure there's a like it goes back to the community support. That's why I keep talking about that over and over again because that's how important it is because people aren't going to want to do nothing for the community if they're not getting support from it. It's like a two-way relationship there. So,
yeah.
but yeah.
I want to answer Chan's question. He said,
Oh
I
yeah.
wonder how it is for different shades, like your family. I wonder how, wait, my bad. I wonder what it's like coming from a immediate family that has different shades. I feel like for me, I didn't think nothing of it. I pretty much had like an innocent mind in my younger years. Like I didn't really think about like that they were different. I just seen them as my family. And I actually thought it was cool. Like I used to like when my dad we have my sister, we have different moms, same dad. So she's full black because her dad, we had the same dad, but her mom's black. And I would be like, oh, this is my black sister. Like I used to think it was cool. I used to say it in a way like I have a black sister, like I was happy about it. So but I never really thought nothing too much deep into it, like, oh, I'm different or anything.
Yeah, all my kids, everybody's different shades. It's a little weird, but it's okay. No, because I say that because somebody said that about my family one time. They're like, "Oh, it's kind of people look at us like we're weird, but it's not weird. It's okay. That's normal for mixed people and
I think
mixed
my
mixed."
black side, they noticed the difference more than I did because they would always be, like I'm the light one.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, my kids are all different shades and stuff like that. And I wasn't expecting that, honestly. Like, I always thought we were all gonna be like the same color because me and my husband are like the same color. But yeah, they all come out different with shades, and it was like a little. It was like I had to adjust to it because I was like, oh, that's different because my mom and my sister. Like growing up, it was like my dad, he's monoracial white, and then my sister, they're both monoracially black. So like I don't know, I didn't really make it like growing up with the all. We all had different shades, so now it's the same way. Like my son, he looks white, and then so it's like it's okay. It's just weird because yeah, growing up, I didn't really think about it at all. I mean, but like people try to make it a big deal when it's normal for mixed people to like come in different
Yeah,
shades,
I didn't
right?
start noticing the difference until I was told the difference. Like people be like, I'm black,
Exactly.
you're light, and that's kind of like how I was like, wait, you're right, because I never thought about it. Like when you're like 7, 8,
Yeah.
you don't think about it. It's like, well, at least I didn't, and then I was told like, you're light,
Right.
I'm black. I'm like, wait, what is that even supposed to mean? It's like that's when it hits you, like, because you're looking at them like we're both human. Like, wait, does that mean like you're different? Like, it doesn't. It's not something you really think about.
Exactly.
So races, I think that like they say, racial is a social construct. So it is taught. Like you are taught that
It is hard.
people are white, you're black. It's not something like an innocent child is going to be born into knowing the difference. I mean, it's
Exactly.
possible they can know the difference over time, but for the most part, you're not gonna really think about things if it doesn't affect you.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with that a lot. I agree. And yeah, but yeah, I'm getting kind of tired. I think I've been doing this for like 2 hours now. And, I'm really happy. I think it's really good. I think that, I have these conversations so we could, walk away from it with a little bit of like food for thought. And yeah, I do think that we're going to just center ourselves, like I said, and we're going to make sure, we are getting what we need. Like, we need historian, like, fuck what people are saying about us, right? It's like we need historians. We need, like, let's focus on our own needs, basically, getting our own needs met for our own community. And, like, fuck what people are saying, right?
well, to an extent,
Makes sense.
yes, but um, you don't also you want to make sure that things that are outright lies or dishonest
Exactly.
or just simply not true are dealt with.
Exactly.
because there's
I
still
get that.
a lot of things that are fallacies that are put out there about biracial people. That's the problem.
Exactly. Like we gotta speak up on lies. Like people could feel however they want to feel about us. They don't like us. I don't give a damn. But people start lying about us. That's one thing. So I agree with that. We can't let people keep lying about us. I totally agree with that, Al.
If it didn't come from the source, it ain't true. If it didn't come from us, if you don't hear biracial people in their spaces talking about certain stuff, like where is it really coming from? Because a lot of conversations we have, and then people like saying stuff. I don't see us having those conversations that people are like
Oh, like
aiming.
that we all hate our white parents and shit like that or whatever. That's
Yeah,
the
like
that's the main narrative about us, right? Is that we all
well,
hate
like
our.
well, like the biracial, how they be like, oh, biracial people with black moms. Biracial people are not really having those conversations with each other. There's never been a time in my life where I'm just a biracial person that just walked up to me and was like, "Yo, I got a black mom," so you know, that's never happened. So these people are just creating stuff out of thin air that don't even really exist.
It's not really exist. Yeah, because there's a lot of online jargon that if you go outside, it don't fucking matter. Like nobody's gonna. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I never grew up in either a black community or white community, so I never knew what a number of people went through in terms of part of the reason I think that a number of biracial people turn their back on being mixed race is they feel it's safer to try to be monoracial, to try
Yeah.
to be something,
So I
because they think, oh, it'll work for them. And, maybe where they live, they think that's an option. I personally didn't have that option. And I just, because I used to tell people, I still do sometimes, I didn't have a choice. I was mixed race. Like that, there wasn't any place for me to try to be one thing or another. So to me, it's a false equivalency kind of.
You know what? That's gonna be my next live because I was gonna ask, like, so many
Choice.
people.
It doesn't make sense. But I understand that people.
But like I said, my next live, I really want to talk about the benefits of being biracial.
So
Let's talk about that.
if you never grew up in like a white community or a black community, how did you get so like interested in like your biracial identity? Like how did you get
That's a good question. Have I said this before? I'm not quite sure. I was on YouTube over a decade ago, and I saw this documentary trailer. Really, didn't see the documentary called "I'm Biracial, Not Black." Damn it! That was the beginning because I saw that and I realized
So you seen a
I don't
video and it
really
just
know
brought you
any.
to your biracial identity? That's crazy.
Well, no, I knew I was biracial. Obviously, I knew it was mixed race. It just wasn't something I was interested in.
Right.
To be brutally honest, I had other things on my, like I had a career to think about, and before that, getting an education, all that typical things for people. But it was maybe it's because I was older and I realized I really didn't know anything about other kinds of biracial people like me. Like I didn't know their backgrounds. I didn't really know much about them because I knew biracial people, but I didn't see them as that. They were just individuals,
So this so this
people.
this says a lot though, because I thought like it was just us not fitting into spaces, but you never were even in a space and still seek out biracial people. Like you still want to be in community with biracial people.
Well, because I realized I didn't know a lot about them. So, and I once, some time ago, I think last year, I think it was last year, I did a live stream called The Education of a Biracial, where I laid out what I've learned is I had to learn about other biracial people because what I realized was I didn't know other individuals, their experiences, their struggles, their strengths, all of that stuff. I really didn't know much. And it was odd when I think about it. It's like I didn't really know biracial people as biracial people. And so it's been an education for me over
Yeah,
the
it's
past
it's
decade.
that feeling of not knowing that we don't have our own group, but everybody else does.
That I think that came later for me. It was less about a group than understanding, you know, understanding about mixed race people. I mean, it really, it's scary to think about. You know, I gotta be brutally honest. It's scary. That's why it's so hard for biracial people and mixed race people. Lack of understanding. You know, I think at some there are important issues, important things like medical issues. What disorders and diseases are mixed race people more prone to? You know, I was thinking about that recently. I'm like, I don't know anything about that. I don't know much statistically. I don't know much about biracial people in this country.
But you would
What
like
are
to
the
know.
rates of biracial people in regard to undergrad and grad student, graduate degrees, and professional status, or vocational status, or all these other things? I
So
don't
how do
really
we find those
know.
things out? How can we like get our
Um,
government to want to even find that stuff out for us to have access to it?
I'm trying to think. Census, maybe. I would say census would have to be the one area for data. I think you would also have to look at other agencies,
play
other
this.
aspects.
This is the trailer to the I'm biracial, not black. Damn it. I wanted to watch it because I never seen it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and watch
People
it.
ask me what color I am, and I'm not really sure why, but sometimes they ask me that, and I just give them the answer that I'm a tannish color.
Yeah, I don't know why they asked me that.
It doesn't matter how a biracial child happens to look. If it looks more black or more white or doesn't look like it have any black in them, we're still our own race and we don't belong to one or the other.
You're not black, and on the white side, you're not white. So where do you fit?
You're not just black or you're not just white. We somehow need to be acknowledged more instead of just saying somebody's black. I mean, look at me. I don't look like I'm black or I don't look like I'm white. So I think that somewhere in there needs to be a happy medium.
There's really like no way to be black or white. That's the problem, like with being mixed. Like people expect you to be like ghetto or something, but like I don't want ghetto to define black.
Nobody really wants to touch the subject of biracial people and the discrimination that they have to face almost every day between the two races.
You get criticism from both, you get rejected from both because you're not part 100% of them.
Black people treat me like I'm black, but then you have some complexes inside of that too. I'm the light-skinned black girl, which has its own issues. She's light-skinned, that's the light girl. Oh, she thinks she's all that. Who does she think she is with her hair and all of that? I've probably dealt with more racism within the black culture.
I used to have nightmares about half my body being beat up. You have black, so we're gonna beat you half to death. This is things that you don't really think that you're gonna.
Go ahead and pause it.
This is like watching this video. This is the #1 problem with biracial people. I think this is #1. I just seen this video like last month. This is something I should have seen in my childhood. I should have seen this video like when I was 7. Like everything they're saying, I should have knew about this a long time ago. Like this should have been taught to me. Like this video should have just been shown to me when I was like 7. That's the #1 problem, that I had to, everything they're saying, I had to go through my whole life just to figure it out on my own. When all this could have been avoided if I was just simply shown other biracial people having my experience.
Facts. Big ass fucking facts right there. Oh my God. This is really good. Yeah, go ahead and play the rest of it. I really like
say
this.
to anybody else because they might seem it to be absurd.
I want to be who I am, and my biggest beef is, I'm a sister, but I'm also a white girl. So I'm a half of both. I'm a half a white girl and half a sister.
Because we're finally getting to that place where, eventually we'll stop seeing color as a boundary between us.
It makes me feel interesting. Like, I'm not just one race, that I'm two. So it makes me look like more of an interesting person.
Nobody else can really have an experience of having a foot in each court.
That makes you maybe different, unique, but also vulnerable.
I don't know if you see the best of both because you never are truly one or the other.
But I didn't have a preference.
I wish that I was either one
or the other, because I would have been loved for who I was.
I accepted having the best of both worlds, and sometimes having the worst of both worlds too.
If my father wasn't Lebanese, if my mother wasn't who she was, maybe I would have had a normal childhood.
I was ashamed at times of both. There was a time in my life I didn't want to be German or white. And then there's a time in my life I didn't want to be black. I even changed my last name to an Italian last name. I couldn't identify myself with either or the other. I just wanted to be me.
So you try to just go about life as just trying to fit in wherever you can, however you can.
I think the tragedy is when you shrug your shoulders when I say there's an identity issue.
Sometimes it makes me confused because, some people aren't nice to me because I'm not in their race.
What the document is,
but I say
it's like they
I'm
like
half
watching.
in their race.
I'm Alicia, I'm 9.
How does the
I
government
vote.
know what's going on?
Dude, how does the what?
Like listening to all these people, right? So the government knows what's going on, and they're not doing nothing about it.
I don't know.
Like they
I
like.
want to research who made this documentary though.
Huh?
I want to research who made this documentary.
It's crazy.
Caroline or something.
I wish I just could have known my experience before I even had it. Like just knowing this would have been helpful, like way helpful.
Exactly.
Why community is important. Because a community and an identity and just having that, like black people, like they teach their people like what they're gonna go through, what they're gonna experience before it happens.
And the talk and all that shit, right?
Yeah, they talk to them and let them know like what may happen or what they may go through, and it helps them.
Mm-hmm. I think this should be shown to biracial people, biracial kids. I think you're absolutely valid what you just said. Like this should be.
Have you shown?
I'm gonna show this to my kids. I'll show this to my kids definitely. I'll show this. I never watched this before. I just Al told me, so I wanted to go look it up. So it's really good. I really like it. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. So hold on, somebody's trying to pop up here. I'm trying to see who it is. Hold on. Who is it?
Yeah, so I saw this in 2010. This particular trailer in 2010, and so that's what kicked off everything for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And
it's an eye opener.
It is.
Yeah, precisely. Yes, and it opened my eyes. That's why I started looking at more videos, and then I eventually got to groups on social media, and then down the line YouTube.
That's awesome.
All because I saw the.
I wish this would have been my eye opener. I wish I wouldn't have had to experience it myself. I wish I would have, because I feel like it all could have been avoided if, I just seen this and knew before it happened.
Exactly, I agree. I totally agree. But what's up, Cham? How you doing today?
I'm good. How's everyone doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Awesome. How's the L show doing?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
And you?
Good. Listen, I only came here just to ask one question and then I'll bounce. My one question, it's more like a theory, it just popped into mind. So regarding, you guys recognize that there's this relentlessness in the United States to keep making biracial people like black, basically constantly forcing the black label on biracial people, right? Just checking that. So what came to mind as I was thinking about it is, do you think, considering that America sees things as, black and white, that's how they want it, black and white, like, so with that being said, do you think that there's this, whilst they see things as black and white, there's this relentlessness to force the black label on biracial people, because whilst they want things to be just black and white, they want to make you guys the new black, so that like you guys are the black.
I already know that. I already understand it because I see it happening already.
Yeah, that's what came to mind. It's like like they want things to be black and white, but just not my kind of black. They want you know what I'm saying? So they want
they want eventually every black person to look like me and Magic. at some
Right.
point. They want us
Exactly.
to be the average black person in America.
Yes. And once you know the replacement, you know, fully happens, like then that's it.
That
It
they're
will
gonna
just be
label us all
you.
white, and they're gonna be the majority. Basically, what they did in North
Mm.
Africa.
That's
Hmm.
deep.
They're
That's
gonna
deep.
they're gonna once we become the average black person, they're gonna label us white, and that's just how they're gonna grow their numbers. That's how they did it in North
Hmm.
Africa. That's how they did it in the Spanish colonies.
So I think that's why they're doing it. They keep calling you lot black. They want to push the black label on you because they want to make you. They want to redefine blackness. You know, with biracial. I think that's just why they do.
Yeah,
Not to make
yeah,
this about us. It's
Then,
just a thought.
no, and then black people
that's
are
true.
going along with it. That's the crazy part. Like that's what I'm saying. Nobody's immune to
Yeah,
propaganda. Like no, that's what I'm saying.
I
Like
think they're going along with it because they don't really care if they're like their gene like they're wiped out. To be honest, I feel like they don't think it's their obligation. I think they feel like Africa's obligated to fight that, and they don't have to because they're
I think
Black
so. You
Americans.
got a point, bro. You got a point. It's like, okay,
you
so
don't care.
Africa is quote unquote the black factory. So it's like the black people in America are like, you know what,
It's
you
not
know,
our job
yeah, it's
to
not
keep
like
the
let's
race.
leave that to Africa because you know they have
Like
better
they don't
things to
mind
do.
becoming mixed. They already see themselves as mixed.
Mm, okay, so not. I swear, I'm just asking. You know, just so I'm clear. So are you referring to the Moroni ones?
Yeah,
Because
like they know like they have mixed ancestry, so it's like they don't even care at this point.
yeah,
They're like, well, we're black, but at the same time, I don't care if we become. They hate their blackness.
you know what I think? I think it's like so when we're talking about the Will Smiths and Michael B. Jordans, etc. It's like I guess some of them it's like, well, since I'm already mixed, then there's no point in preserving, you know, like monoraciality because I'm already mixed, so I might as well procreate with a white woman, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what.
or they're just comfortable breeding themselves. It's like it's not harming them to breed themselves out. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Well,
they're doing it in a way like where it's like damn, I like all basically all the white women that white men don't want. It's like I get all these women, so it's like I'm willing to breed myself out for this sexual selection type. You know what I'm saying?
I see, I see. Do you think that, but also, do you think another factor is just proximity as well? Like ultimately, like it's like they can't be asked to, you know, wait for someone of their own race because it's like they're
No,
not.
I don't think it's proximity because they're proximity to black women. They're in proximity to black women. They just choose not to. They just choose not to procreate with them. They just rather. That's what I'm saying. They want what they can't have. Like it's like when they see other people desire these other groups of women. Because like there's a lot of Latino men, biracial men, white men. They're not really chasing after black women. So black men don't see value in it when other men are not chasing it.
Which
So
is
they want.
ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, they don't see value. Like they're not getting it when they're with a black woman. They're not getting attention. When they're with a white woman, they get attention. So it's like they see they get real more respect in society when they're with a white woman. They get attention. They see more value in it being with a white woman. So it's
There's
like
a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that, but there's another factor as to why there's like if we're talking about division between quote unquote black men and women, I think it's because there's an attitude problem, but you know, from both sides. You know, like for example, like if we're talking about black men, like a lot of black men, you know, in my opinion and a lot of black men's opinion, they will say that the number one reason why they, you know, go out like of their race is because of the attitude from black women. And I know it's vice
yeah,
versa.
they want something new. That's what I'm saying. They're comfortable breeding
No, no,
themselves
they
out. It's,
but what I'm saying, like as in, you know, another factor is because there's an attitude problem, like amongst black men and black women. Like, you know, black men, you know, they don't like the attitudes of black women. That's I'm saying I'm just introducing another factor as to what would
yeah,
motivate.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of factors in it. I think that all these factors create one comfortable place that they're in where they're just willing to just
Hmm.
you know
But what do you think of that factor, the attitude problem? Like that's an actual thing.
that that's a hard one because I feel like that has to like how did that even happen? That's the like you got
Right.
to think about how did that even come about?
Yeah. No,
And
I
I
always
think that
wonder.
it has a lot to do with like black men, they're not gonna like this. They're not gonna want to accept this, but it's how they raise their daughters. Like they raise their daughters to hate other men. Like literally, I see it in the black community. Like black men will teach their daughters like to not need a man, but you're supposed to be do the opposite. You're supposed to be
Are you
building.
talking about black women, like the mothers? Are you talking about the mothers?
No, like black men, they'll raise their black daughters to not be fit for another man. Like they'll teach them that they're teaching them the opposite, to be independent and to not need a man, and to watch out for men, when they should be teaching their women to be like the woman they're looking for in a woman. They should be teaching their daughters to be that for that man, or you're never going to create that cycle. You know what I'm saying? Like they've created a cycle where they've raised their daughters to hate men basically and have attitude. So it's like they raise their daughters to.
But isn't the majority of the quote unquote black children raised by black mothers? Not trying to make this a competition.
Well, yeah, now, but I'm saying before that even happened, before that even came about.
Okay, that's interesting. I've never heard someone say that before. Like black men raising their daughters to, what do you say, to not like black men? Is that what?
Well,
I'm
no,
confused.
just like okay, like because okay, my uncle, he raises his daughters like to cook dinner, to basically be like
traditional,
to be wife material. He raises his daughters that way. But when I go into like black homes, they don't do that.
Actually, they don't necessarily do that with necessarily precisely in every other culture either. I think there's
Like if you look at other cultures,
here's what
like
you have to understand. Here's what you have to understand. This idea of traditional whatever. You're living in a society where it's an all hands on deck economy. Everyone has got to be able to take care of themselves. And so more often than not, women not only have to take care of themselves, but if they have kids, they have to take care of the kids.
it just comes down to black
So
culture.
they have to be more flexible than men. What happens is that women wind up being more flexible than men. So what often happens in some families, in a number of families, is women are taught how to take care of themselves and thus be able to integrate themselves in the world. They can go out, they can get jobs, they can get educated, they can get careers and so forth.
Oh, so be independent.
Well, not independent, everyone is independent to an extent. I mean,
Like you said, traditional. It's really women traditional roles. You got to raise a woman to do traditional roles, and it takes the mother and the father to do that.
Again, you're not looking. Here's what you got to look. You're too stuck. You're too stuck in feeling that people have to be one way and another. That's really not how things work. Like nobody. Again, in this society, people have to be able to be self-sustainable, right? So more often than not, the way women are raised are to be self-sustainable. What happens is that men often are not raised to be self-sustainable, depending on the family they come from. Some men are raised to be self-sustainable. Other men are not. So what you have are men who are incapable of taking care of themselves and want to be taken care of by women. So that's why they will state this whole traditional thing, because they can't take care of themselves.
Also, you can't just raise your daughter to be, play that role of the type of woman that a man will want. You have to also be the role model of that, like, because the daughter's going to be looking at how you're treating the mother. So you got to like practice with
You
your
have to
kids.
understand. Here's what you gotta understand. Women often have to be able to take care of themselves. It's men that want to be often. A lot of men want to be taken care of. Thus, they can't take care of themselves. So they're too over reliant on a woman. Now, I say this as a bachelor. I say this as somebody who's single. So I'm used to having moved to cities where I have to take care of things. I have a roommate who's the guy. So if this person doesn't cook, guess who's going to cook for me? Me. do
Well,
laundry,
yeah,
all
that
this stuff.
both sides,
So
both
I
genders.
have a kind of so here's so the way that I look at it is I don't care for an over reliance on another, on the opposite sex. That's just that's why I say
We're talking about
some
families, though.
men
We're not
are
talking about being
self-sustainable
single.
and other men are not self-sustainable. That's why they want all this traditional, quote unquote, traditional stuff, because they don't know how to sustain and take care of themselves.
Well, it's traditional for a
From what
man to
I feel and
provide.
observe.
It's traditional for a man to provide and work and be the head of the house.
Again, everybody's working, everybody's providing.
Yeah.
So what value does your thinking you're going to be the one to provide mean when everybody has to provide? Everybody has to take care of themselves.
Nobody.
See, in the end of
That's
the
not.
day,
We're not. We're not. That's not what I'm saying.
that kind of box traps
I'm not putting it in a box. I'm
traps
talking
a
about
lot of men,
traditions. I'm talking
because
about traditions.
it's a box. It's a box.
I'm talking
Because
about
what
the
happens is
roots.
when you can't.
You're talking about what's already
Look,
now. I'm going
when you
back into the
can't.
roots. You're talking about
What I'm
modern day
saying is,
society. We all got to work, right?
a lot of men don't understand the traps they're in. That's what I see.
This is what I'm
They
saying.
think
We
that
got modern
all they
day
have to do is
society.
go out and work. Excuse me. All they have to do is go out and work. They have a job and pay bills and all of that. That doesn't mean anything. And that doesn't mean anything when a woman can go out, get educated, pay bills, and take care of kids. She can do all that. So that's why I say when I hear a lot of guys talk about, well, I'm the provider and I do this and I do that. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean jack crap. It doesn't mean anything, because that's the only identity you're latching on to and the only kind of meaning you have. And that's why I look at it and I go, as far as I'm concerned, I view it as a trap for a lot of guys, and a lot of guys learn the hard way. They learn the hard way when they go, how come she left me? How come I'm having a divorce? How come I gotta pay alimony? Well, you're the guy who
that's what I'm
wanted to
trying to say.
provide, and you're gonna get alimony. You gotta pay alimony.
That's what I'm trying to
You
say.
wanted to provide, you're gonna provide that alimony.
You got people who think
I
traditional,
see
and
the
you got
trap.
people
I
the
see
modern
the
day
trap.
society. You got people who think
you gotta live in the society you live in, not the society.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's where the war starts. Is that people?
I can't live in 19. We can't live in 1923. We have to live in 2023.
Right. We know that.
And
We
so what
know
I'm
that.
saying is,
We know that. But there's people who believe in
and so
those
what I'm
traditions
saying
still.
is,
There's people who still believe in those traditions.
they're more customs than traditions. They're more customs than traditions.
Whatever they are,
And
people still
at the end of
believe
the
in them,
day,
and that's what they
everybody's
expect.
got to provide. Everybody's got to provide.
Yeah,
Everybody's
but
got to
there's
provide.
people who still believe in that, but just because you don't believe in it,
That's what I'm trying to
somebody
say.
else
Like,
does. I get what you're
if
saying.
But you can, you can believe. It's not a matter. So here's the thing:
Some
they
people
can
want to
believe
live
in
like
whatever
that.
they want.
Yeah.
Well, they can live however they can try to live however they want. I'm dealing with reality, and what I'm saying is, if you put yourself in that box, then you have to deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
You can't
we're
go and say,
saying the
"Well,
same
I
thing. That's what.
want this tradition, but I don't want this, that, and the other thing." Well, you signed up for this. You're going to have to pay the price for it. If there's a price, you're going to have to deal with the consequence of that. So that's the point, And so again, I look at it from a flexible standpoint, which is everybody's got to provide. You just don't live in a world where one person has to provide for everybody, because that doesn't make any economic sense.
No, nobody said
You
that.
got to
What
live
we're
in a world
saying
where
is that
everybody has to learn how to
woman
provide for
traditional
themselves.
roles, like a woman catering to her man, like making dinner, like traditional roles. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about who's providing.
Again, right. What I'm saying is you're assuming that that's what automatically people have to do, and nothing's automatic.
I'm not saying
the
that's what
point.
people have to do. He asks a question: why don't black men choose about? He's talking about the attitudes of black women, why they don't want to be with black women because of the attitudes. That has nothing to do with providing. It goes back to traditional roles. The attitudes that women have now are not aligned with the traditional roles. Does that make sense? It has nothing to do with the
No, it's not
financial situation.
what I'm saying is you can't align with something that isn't relevant. What's relevant is that if
The
again, if
question
you
is
put yourself in a narrow,
the
if you
question
put
is
yourself in a narrow category,
oh
it really depends on, and that depends on what people want,
his
right?
question is why
Like you
don't
can
black
want
men date
whatever you,
black women because of
but
their attitude?
yeah.
That's the question.
Well, yeah, but the odd thing is this is a biracial space. So what is that? What relevance does that have to biracial people? That's something for African Americans to figure out.
Because they go out and make biracial people because they don't want to be with black women. It's a relevant question, isn't it?
Not really,
Hey, sorry,
because it's a relevant question that to the community.
sorry, just to
I
clarify.
would agree, but not to biracial people.
Just to clarify. So earlier,
It
I was
can be
just
if they're making biracial people for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but he's not discussing why they date interracially. He's asking another kind of question.
let me clarify. So I was just
Right.
pointing out. I was just pointing out a factor. You know, like one of the factors as to why, um, like for example, black men, you know, day out is because of the attitudes of many black women that they're put off by that, so it makes them want to try elsewhere, basically.
Right, and that could be the wrong reason. I
Uh,
was saying that this can have to do with biracial because if you're creating biracial people for the wrong reasons, you end up with we have right now where they want us to be black.
No, I understand. Like
well, yeah.
say, like the groups called like the divestors, and you got the groups like Save Yourselves Black Men. Like some of them partake.
Right.
Yeah,
And they
they
both
part.
argue on both sides. Oh, well, if they got a black father, that means they're black. And then the other side is like, well, if they come from a black mother, that means they're black. So it's like they both try to argue that they create black
And
people.
and biracial people, we're dealing with things that started from black women and black men not having issues with each other. So these black men are going out and dating out and creating us
No, that's
expecting, and there's
well,
creating this dynamic.
actually,
That's facts.
well,
That's
no,
true.
that doesn't have anything. Well, here's the problem. If that's your argument as to biracial people, no, that's never how biracial people came into this world.
I'm not saying that's
That
how
is
that's a factor. There's look at these people, this
right,
video right
but
here. These
again,
confused people talking
right.
about how they didn't fit in. You want first of all, you don't want black biracial people to be called black, right, Al? You want them to be
Well,
identified as
I want to be
biracial, right?
biracial, but
Okay, so think
here's the right.
so black men.
Here's what you got to understand. You're looking at an issue with monoracial people, and here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's not simply a matter of the fact that some monoracial people have issues with each other, and that leads people to date out, and that thus leads to
That is
biracial
one
people.
factor, though.
That's not entirely how
I didn't say
biracial people come
entirely. I
about.
didn't say entirely.
I
I
think
said
his
it's a
point is
factor.
just that it's a factor nonetheless.
It's a factor. It's not the entire.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not terribly interested. I would say I
You're not
try to
interested
keep
in that
things if I'm
factor.
in a biracial space. So here's the thing: I try to keep things within the
That is
parameters
within.
of biracial
That is
people.
an issue. People
And
dating out
so whether
for the wrong reasons and creating
my view
problems in
is
our community.
whether monoracial black people, black men and women get along, or whether they have issues or not, I think is of relevance in that community. But I don't. Again,
We're
I'm trying to
connected to that
respect values.
community. It overlaps into our
Yeah, but
community.
well, here's
We
what you got to
literally live
understand. You got to
side
be
by
sensitive.
side. We live in their communities
Yeah,
at
but you got to be
times.
careful. The lady that you saw before expressed the issues that she has with biracial people. That's
Can I
why I
tell you something?
say
In the
you got to
United
be
States,
aware.
biracial women have a lot of black women friends, and they influence them. So it does affect our community because biracial women take
Well,
on these same characteristics of these black women you're talking about that has nothing to do with you when it really does.
We definitely
Well,
are pure
again,
vacuum. I agree.
again, here's the problem though. The problem is, again, this is why the lady who talked earlier, you have to look at why she said the things she says. And the feeling is that biracial people are seen as, I don't want to say infiltrators, but they're seen as a kind of different and a sort of outsider presence in those communities. That's why I'm always, see, that's why it's always kind of I'm always sort of feeling that there have to be boundaries, right? Like my view is I'm not trying to dictate to monoracial people how they should have healthier relationships, because
Nobody's
that doesn't
dictating.
concern me as a
It's a
biracial
vice. It's
person.
a vice. It's just it's simple
And
advice.
I mean, I'm concerned. My concern is with people in biracial, monoracial,
Well, you got to
multiracial
understand
communities.
that biracial people, we don't have a community yet, and we're intermixed in the black community right now. So you talking about reality? The reality is that we are in black spaces. So it
So
is our problem
so
too.
my point,
Until you
right?
go create a biracial community that we can all go live in, then we could worry about this community you're talking about. But right now,
Yeah, but
black problems
at
are
the
our
end of the
problems
day,
too.
right? Well, see, that's the problem. Do you want to concern yourself? Do you want to deal with the issues of biracial people within a biracial space, or do you want to deal with the issues of monoracial people within a biracial
This is
space?
well, we're dealing with the issue in the biracial space with biracial
That's
people.
the
What I'm
word that,
talking
and
about is
so see, the problem is you can't have it both ways, right? You can't you can't go and say, yeah, we should discuss our issues and our problems and our aspects, and then try to deal with the problems and issues of monoracial people. That's what I'm saying.
We deal with that because there's ramifications that affect our community. Is what we're saying. Like if they are dating interracially for wrong reasons, creating biracial people, and then
so. What
we're trying
about
to
a black woman with a
those
biracial
biracial
daughter?
people, that's gonna we got to deal with the ramifications of their actions. You know what I'm saying? So that's all we're saying.
I think you would I think you would deal with the relationships that a monoracial person would have with a monoracial person of another race. Yeah, those ramifications I understand. But what I'm saying is I'm trying to keep it to within a certain kind of space, right? So this is what people like the lady you had on will complain about. Oh, you guys concern yourself with what goes on in our
All right,
community. You
so when
concern
an ally
yourself with
comes in
what
your
we're doing
space,
and all that.
so listen, let me ask you something. When an ally comes into your biracial space, right? An ally. I'm talking about like a monoracial person that's an ally comes into your space, and they're basically saying the same thing you're doing, and they ask you a question, are you just gonna be like, well, fuck you, that's not my problem?
Well, if I'm in a biracial, in multiracial space, I try to deal with biracial, multiracial issues.
Right. So
If
if an
I'm in a
ally is doing
monoracial
that with
space,
you,
I don't mind. I
why can't you
mean,
have
I can talk
a
about
simple
those issues,
exchange conversation?
right?
We're not
But see,
segregated.
I'm just saying. Look, I'm just taking it. I'm just stating what my position is. Like, I don't want to get too involved in monoracial affairs in a biracial or multiracial space. That's the way I look at it. Like, because I understand women like this Mayoma, they're going to go and complain and be critical and all that. This is the kind of thing that this is fodder for them. This is the kind of stuff to use against biracial people.
I think that we should speak out against people who interracially date for the wrong reasons because it hurts the children. And we care about biracial people. You know, we're trying to look out for biracial people. It is for biracial people at the end of the day because we don't want them to suffer. Because so many kids they deal with like self-hating parents, and then they try to project that
Well,
self-hate.
that's relevant. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
That's relevant.
that's
Sure.
yeah. Because that's what we're about. We're trying to look out for biracial people. So if we come
Right.
across somebody, I mean, we're not gonna like we can't, it's life. We can't like sit here, but we could still speak out about it and be like, hey, if you really love your children, you really don't try to just create. Because okay, I've heard some disgusting things. Like, there's people called okay, like Beyonce's dad, he wrote a book. he said something about like he
Mhm.
hated white people so much that he wanted to go like fuck a white woman. It was called like erotic rage. Like that's some crazy shit, right? So it's like trying to get that's a real thing. Like people try to get back at the white man by fucking white women and then creating these biracial kids, and then they don't really give a fuck about these biracial kids, and they on their own. So it's like
Why don't we ask white people why what?
that's crazy shit, right? So
Yeah, well, I didn't know that about Beyonce's father, but yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna have to
that
wrap it
seems
up
the
with you
person who
guys.
has some issues.
Jake's, we're getting kind of tired, but we're gonna have to wrap it up. It's kind of
Right.
almost 2 hours. But I'm gonna do another
Yeah.
live. I'm gonna try to schedule my lives maybe like every other day. And my next live I want to do is like the benefits of being biracial. We could talk about that, so that'll be good. So I'll probably
That
schedule.
sounds good.
So we'll
I
talk
say
about.
all that, you're right. The reason I say that is in light of the video you showed, I know there are monoracial people. As soon as you say anything about them in, say, a space like this, they're going to use, they want to, I'm not saying they'll clip it necessarily and make videos about it, but they seize on that kind of thing.
That's
And
good.
so,
Man, they could promote the channel. Let them do it.
not
Let
if
them
it's used
promote
against
us.
biracial people.
Let them do it. Let them.
They have more
Not if it's used
influence and
against
power than
biracial
us
Yeah, they
people.
got more
anyway.
influence and power, so fine. Like let them use it.
Let
It's
them
cool.
use their
Worry about
influence
it.
and power to bring
That's the
attraction
whole
to the
point.
space.
How we ain't gonna care about what people think. Like that's the whole point of this. Like making sure, like, hey, these people are gonna make videos like this about
You're,
us.
we're
Water is
not
like
gonna. First of all,
Well,
we're
if
not
you
gonna
didn't
get
hear
any.
what,
We're not gonna get
again, what I'm
anywhere not
saying is,
having a conversation with the most dominant races in society.
exactly.
well, again, my point is this. I'm not like I don't go to biracial and multiracial spaces to talk about monoracial people. Generally, in general, I do it to deal with biracial people and multiracial people.
Exactly.
And that's when I saw this trailer, which you have on the side here, that was the reason. It was like, oh, I'm looking at this. Let me look at more videos about biracial people. Oh, let me get to this group. You
You gotta
want to be
understand.
in a place in a
Cham has
space.
gave us a lot of good advice and a lot of good pointers
Yeah, Chim's
for
good.
us not to return and give him like some information. It's a information exchange, which
Exactly.
that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Communication is good. It's not
Communication.
bad.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna end it on that, guys. I gotta go. My kids are. I gotta go, guys. I love y'all so much. We're gonna do
All
another
right.
one. Okay.
All right.
But I'm gonna end it on
See
that.
you
All right.
later.
Have a good night. Okay. Bye, y'all.
There wasn't much in your eyes, living for another's life. Keep it inside the lines till you rip it to pieces. Take it into your veins, a medicine without pain. Visitors in your brain start kicking and screaming. Keep screaming. Run, run, when all of your friends are gone, you become undone. Run, run, you're learning it's not so fun when you narrow down to one. Run, 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 look at what you've done. Run, 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 keep on till you narrow down to none. A body from another life, chasing me to the sky. Know I love to run and hide, I'm a little bit terrified. Did I stumble into the end? Maybe it's where I begin. Burning in the ash within, I'm finally purified. Keep screaming. Run, run, when all of your friends are gone, you become undone. Run, run, you're learning it's not so fun when you narrow down to one. Run, 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 look at what you've done. Run, 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 keep on till you narrow down to none. Leave it all if it's towards the enemy. Wants to be one, better know your identity. Leave it all in the brawl or you'll never be one. Not living a life meant for anyone. Leave it all if it's towards the enemy. Wants to be one, better know your identity. Leave it all in the brawl or you'll never be one. Not living a life meant for anyone.